So exactly, you're just chasing it. You're just chasing that unknown, and when you get there, to stay there, that's the hardest part. I mean, that's when all the nerves, all the, like I said, expectations kick in, and that's when things get a little harder.
This is the Gold Medal Mindset, where we bring you all things winning in business, sport, and life. I'm Dr. Jason Richardson, pro BMX world champion and Pan Am Games gold medalist. Now I'm a professional speaker, author, and winning mindset coach. Thanks for joining in. Get ready to mine for gold as we challenge your perception to change your results. We are back. Welcome to the Gold Medal Mindset. And as you may have guessed it, I'm super excited to have this guest, Mr. Maris Strombergs. We were just talking before I pressed the record button, and he said he may or may not have 3 European championships. He kind of forgets, but he definitely remembers his 2 world championship titles, and he definitely remembers his 2 Olympic gold medals. Welcome, Mr. Maris Strombergs, BMX champion. Some say he's the GOAT. Maris, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. I wanted to have you on for some time. I figured, rather than just get into the racing and the BMX stuff, I mean, to make this have a broader appeal, I think what's interesting to me and to other people outside of our sport is, and it's a hot topic now with Trump as president, the immigration story.
I know. I'm kind of trying to push it. Working on it.
So hashtag immigration. So we'll get the listenership up just with that hashtag. But seriously though, I mean, you've always raced a bicycle since you were a kid. I know that. And coming from a country from Latvia, explain to people, I guess a brief history on Latvia. It's, how that world works on the Eastern Bloc.
Well, I mean, obviously it's a small little tiny country in Eastern Europe, and I was always, growing up, I was just a little kid that always looked up to, obviously, my coach, that Ivo Lakuch, and there was a couple other guys, Yanis Vanex, older guys, so they were kind of actually the guys that were going to Europe and trying to, basically to make it. Because I remember when I started racing when I was a little kid, we were still so far off the back, compared to all the Europeans. Del Holmes, all the Christopher Levesque, and all them guys.
So in the United States, we would consider Latvia Europe, but you're saying where you were in Latvia, you were still not in that kind of core European circuit. You had to go out of your way to even get to that.
Basically, that's what he was. Yeah, Latvia in general, we became independent. What was it, 87, 88? Yeah, it was still part of Russia before that. So it really, and BMX in Latvia started in 87. Wow. No, I might be wrong. 86, 87, something. Yeah.
Well, that's splitting hairs. So you started? So how old are you? Just so people know.
29, turning 30 in a week.
Nice, and you just won last week, so that's pretty nice to get some wins as you're approaching 30.
I know. Well, hopefully I keep getting some when I'm 32.
No, I think it'll happen. I think we're rooting for you. All the retired guys are rooting for you because we we want to see the older guys still out there in front and winning. So
I think 30 is actually not. Now
old.
That I'm approaching 30, I kind of actually feel, as far as physically, I feel better than I have in a long time, probably ever. It just comes down to the mindset. Just getting your head right, and then being, and not be afraid to take those risks once in a while. That's what it comes down to.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you opened it up, the mindset. So when did you start traveling and actually hitting more international races?
Well, let's say I started riding, I would say 1993. I was, I think 5.5, something like that. And to be honest, I don't really remember my first international race, but I think it was probably a year, maybe 2 years later, probably 95, maybe 90, maybe late 94. It was either Belgium, Holland, or Hungary. Hungary. I don't know how to say that country.
Right.
And
But
one of those three countries, yeah. But I think I started off slow. Yeah, a lot of a lot of crashing, and then didn't do that well the first couple of years.
yeah, so when did it start to click for you in your head where you're saying, okay, I'm actually pretty good. I think I can make a go, or was it just like I enjoy racing my bike and it doesn't matter how I do?
Well, that's how it was basically till I turned maybe 14, 15 at that. I mean, before it was just having fun. I mean, all my buddies at that time were racing and we all, I mean, went to the track together, all that stuff. It was just having fun. I mean, and we had older guys they kind of look up to. And then, I mean, the practices were fun. I mean, the training sessions were fun. We just kind of tried, we're chasing each other around the track. So it was just fun. I mean, just good time, really.
Right. Do you remember like having like a breakthrough kind of race around 14 or 15, or maybe a time where you kind of beat everyone, or
well, I mean,
because when you came to the U.S., you kind of just hit like, boom, you're here.
I mean, I started off slow though. I mean, I remember the first race in Reno when I moved to America. Was it 2009?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, but it was a small indoor race. I've never been a big fan of those, and then especially coming from Latvia when there's winter time and then all that stuff. So I mean, I remember I struggled. I think quarterfinals or something both days. So I was like, okay, okay, this is not good. This is not how I planned it. How I planned it to go. But the week after, I think it was Phoenix, Goodyear, and that NBL, and that's when I kind of won both days. And then after then, it kind of took off as far as like in America. That's after I moved. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what you're talking about 2009 when you moved. I'm talking about 2008 because you won the World Championships in 2008. I believe at the beginning of that season, you came to the United States and raced and won that season opener in Ohio.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Christmas
that's right.
Classic.
I forgot I won. I forgot I beat all the Americans.
Yeah. Christmas Classic. That's right. Yeah. That was the first ever Christmas Classic. Yeah,
I totally remember that. And then you went off and did the European thing, and I think probably won the Europeans that year. I don't know. But then, you won the World Championships that year in 2008, and that was in China. And then, of course, Beijing, Olympics, you brought home the gold. I mean, so that's when I say when you kind of came to the U.S. That's how American centric I am. But yeah, when you came on the scene, it seemed like you came on the scene instantly. But you're telling me you had a slow start, and I think that's interesting.
I mean, I guess, yeah, just mentally. I mean, I think when you come to America, it's 9. I mean, it's just you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and that's what the first race is always tough.
Yeah.
And then, but as far as 2008, I mean, if you go back to Christmas Classic, I mean, even when we went to that race, I remember it was me, Artur Madisons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, yeah, I remember him, and he was still. I mean, at that time, I mean, even though I felt like I'm still kind of chasing him at that point.
Yeah,
but
he was the big guy in the.
He was like
Latvia.
the big guy. He was 2 years older too. He's the same age as Baba. Yeah.
Yep.
And so at that time, it was still kind of like, I mean, there was no really pressure on me because he was older guy. I was still chasing him, but in my mind, I felt confident that I can go out and win the race. But he was kind of still the top guy at that point, and then I took over. I think the year after, basically in 2008. Yeah. Early in 2008.
Yeah, and I will say, in 2008, do you remember Nashville in 2008?
Oh, I do. You guys killed me. You just smoked me.
So that was my last year racing. So
you were going good. I don't know whatever gear you had on. You were just off to the little roller. You just took off.
So for the record, I was 33. So, but I just so people understand, for me to celebrate the fact that I beat you, that one or two times, that should let people know how good you are. That I have to count on one hand how many times I beat you.
I'm pretty sure you beat me in many times. What was 2000? How did you do in 2006? The world
2006. I was sitting at home with a broken leg. I broke my leg in February 2006.
Okay.
And I didn't come back until later. Yeah, so I was at home washing my car, waiting for the news from 2006 Worlds. So there you go.
That's gotcha.
And then in 2007, the Worlds were in Canada. I broke my back, and then 2008, you won the Worlds, and that was my last Worlds, and that was it. But anyways, this is about you, and I thought that the cool part about you coming over here from Latvia, and, as a kid, you kind of look at these magazines, and then, what is it like to essentially race people that you might have looked up to or seen in the magazines or seen on all the videos, and then all of a sudden you're with them, beating them on the gate with them? What's going through your head?
I never really thought of that. Obviously when I moved to America, I felt like physically and mentally ready to do it. It's not that I came to America when I was, let's say, 16.
Right.
When I came, I felt like I'm on the, on the top of the sport. So, I never really thought of that. But to be honest, I always wanted to race, not going to lie, Denny Nelson. He was...
And he had retired. He had retired before you came.
Yeah, he retired before. I don't know what year exactly was it, but he was retired, by then. And then, so that never happened. But yeah, like I said, growing up, it was definitely different. I was, as a kid, whenever we got whatever it was, BMX Plus, or any magazine, that magazine was always on my nightstand. For the whole month till I got the new one. Just always going through, all the pictures, and it's just, and that's how I grew up. I don't think it's like that these days anymore.
Well, because now with the internet, everyone gets all the information right away.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Yeah, and then it's a funny story. The same with how those magazines always have those dance comp, those little the list of little like a shop.
Yeah, the bike shop, they do the mail order ads. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going through that every night trying to put together my dream bike, and I just always writing down different parts, and then just bring it to my dad, and then eventually 2 years later, actually, he bought me a bike. So.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. What did he get? What did he get you?
Well, I obviously got Powerlight. Yeah.
That's right. You were a Danny Nelson fan. You were Danny.
Yeah,
Nelson
the yellow one, and then it's just all those different parts, and then just writing down the lists and prices and bringing it to my dad, and then just trying to get it a little lower and all that stuff. And eventually, it took me 2 years, yeah.
But you did it. You were persistent, kind of like your racing career. So I like that, because I hear that story a lot when people, and not even when they move to the United States, but when they, whether it's a baseball player, football player, BMX rider, when they actually turn pro, that's one of the things they say. They say, here I am, now I'm competing with or competing against the people I looked up to. And I've heard that time and time again. And you're, I think, the first person who said, actually, no, it wasn't so much like that. I was at the top of the sport. I felt like I belonged there. So, but I think, when I came, I felt like I'm ready. I was prepared mentally and physically. And big thanks to my coach as well. That's what, like I said, I think I just kind of came at the right time. Yeah, I didn't try to force it. Mm-hmm. And at that time I was 21, about to turn 22. So it's not that I was a young kid. So like I said, I just felt just mentally. The timing was good, and I have to say, knowing your coach and having raced your coach at a few events, like a lot of them. No, that you really, aside from the physical training, I know, just because of the era in which he raced and as much travel as he did do around the world and in the United States, I know that he probably prepared you quite a bit just for as far as expectations, what to expect, what the scene is like, who kind of does what tracks are kind of so it makes perfect sense that you say you were prepared, you felt like you were ready, and that's a huge piece, because a lot of times when I work with people, they might be talented enough, they might have the skills or be talented enough to compete, but inside, in their head or in their heart, they kind of don't feel like they belong, or they don't feel like they're ready to, and they always want to go back to the training board or the drawing board because they feel like they have to, do something more.
In that case, I think it's sometimes complete opposite. A lot of times you have to do less. If you're struggling with racing, a lot of times it's really not training as much as your mental side of the the mental part. Even myself, I've had some bad years as well. Even here in America, and then it's just, for myself, it has never been about being physically ready. I always put the work in, always spend certain amount of hours in the gym and track and do all the work. But if you're mentally not 100% committed, that's when things go. That's when things go wrong. That's why I had
exactly. And so, I've literally been I've been speaking in front of a crowd. And if I go do a training, I've actually used you as an example for mindset. Wow. And one of the stories that I use was when you were you would want to race in Holland, and from lane 8, and then
Papendal?
Yeah, and I think you said something to the effect at the interview. You said something like, how you this will be good for my confidence. And then ever since then, I had finished racing by then, long after that. But I'd always kind of liked to listen to you talk about your racing, because there's no bravado, there's no macho to it. You're like, you're actually very honest about how you're feeling. You'll say if you're uncomfortable, you say if you don't like something, you'll say if you're not confident. But it doesn't matter, because you still perform. And I think a lot of people who professionals in any sport, or even outside of sport, they feel like they have to kind of put on this show that shows they're more confident than others. But you don't do that. You're like, I'm not feeling it today. But then you go out and win.
I'm always being honest. I'm not trying to. Probably some guys, when they do interviews, they try to hype themselves up or something. But
try to convince themselves.
Trying to convince themselves or something. To me, it's like, when the race starts, and if I'm not feeling it, a lot of times, there rarely, or probably never, I've never convinced myself to, something, or hype myself up if I feel like during the race. If the race started and I'm not feeling it, then that's it. I know I'm not gonna win the race. It's just how it is. During the race, for me, it's just too short of a period, to change that mindset, in those couple hours.
Yeah. So. But you're able to not be emotionally tied to it. Like, it doesn't, I'm not saying you're happy about it, but it doesn't seem to phase you long term. Like, you get over it pretty quick. And that saying, this will be good for my confidence, I loved it. And I liked that kids might have heard that, or people might have heard that, because you had already won a gold medal, at the Olympics. You had already won, I don't know, 1 or 2 world championships at that point. And here you are essentially saying, I'm not always that confident. And I just thought that was refreshing. And the other thing is, you don't seem to do or get caught up in doing, air quote, what everyone else is doing.
Well, I think in general, I gotta give a big thanks to my coach as well. I grew up with him, and a lot of things, what I do or what I say, he's basically been, like my second dad. So, that's why I always give props to Ivo, the coach, as well.
How old is Ivo?
He's actually tomorrow turning 38.
Okay. Man, so I'm older than him. Wow. Okay.
His birthday, I think it's 38. I might be wrong, but it's 37, 38 for sure. Okay. So he's, I'm 30. I think so. 79. Yeah, 38. That's what it is. 8 years older.
Okay. So So let me ask you the questions I think that people want to know, because you've won big in the biggest arenas. So do you like pressure, or you just know how to handle it?
Mm, I do love pressure when I'm ready. I mean, there's really, I mean, it's so hard to explain because there's certain races, some of the races throughout the year, when I go to a race, it's just like, I mean, it's something it's just hard to explain. I'm just in the zone. I mean, it just, nothing can affect me. But as you get older, those days don't come along as often as they used to.
Mm-hmm.
But I still do have them once in a while. So perfect. I mean, I would maybe.
Yeah, but you're once in a while. I mean, let's call a spade here. Your once in a while is what most guys on the circuit would strive to have.
Well,
people go seasons without winning, and you're always good for a few.
Well, what happens? I mean, I think myself, maybe Sam. I mean, obviously Joris right now is going fast, and when I moved to America, because those first couple of years I did win a lot, and those couple of years maybe kind of spoiled me a little bit in some ways, because you take that's how it is. When you get used to things, you take things for granted.
But that's beautiful. Like, right, you're basically saying it's an expectation of mine to win.
Yes and no. I mean, it's great, but when things are not going your way, let's say the next year, I mean, things are not going your way.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
yeah, no, it's an up and down thing. And what I want to say is that, and I can tell you're humble. You're not like trying to brag or anything, but when you say I won a lot, you get used to it. That does put an expectation in your head to say that even that when you don't, it maybe feels like, oh, that's not supposed to happen, or why, that's weird, that's odd. What happened there? So you look at what you're doing or how you're approaching it. But the bottom line is, you won world championships. You won another world championships. You won an Olympics in between there. Then you won London 2012. So, I mean, most people would say those are pressure moments.
Well, they are.
Right. And I want the fans to know. I want them to get some nuggets from you, man. Give it up. Is it because you said when I'm ready, when I'm prepared. So how do you know when you're prepared? How do you know when you're ready? What is that? If we can try to put a word or a sentence to that feeling, that zone, whatever it is.
Well,
it's hard. I know. I'm putting you on the spot. I appreciate you hanging with me.
Well, I mean, whatever race. I mean, I'm talking, let's say, World Cups, World Championships,
yep,
Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever race. I mean, we all put all the work in. Whatever race I go to, there's always that unknown before you get there.
Correct.
And there's always the first practice. You kind of, ride around and you get loose and then do a couple gates with other guys, and that's when you kind of like. I mean, at least for me. When you do those couple gates, and then you kind of, you kind of know.
You get a feel for where you are. Yeah.
You get a feel for where you are. And a lot of times, that's what, gives me that extra confidence. And then, it's just, it's really simple. And then the next day I get up. Like I said, my coach, myself, we always have that when we go to a big race, that expectation that, not that I'm going to win, but I have a shot to win.
Thank you. You nailed it. Thank you. That's the point, right? It's not, obviously you want to win. I shouldn't say obviously, but you want to win, but right, but you have a shot. And I really think there's a lot of people at the high level who don't think they have a shot, which I know sounds crazy, but
well,
but you know a lot of people who you race, and I'm pretty sure that when you talk to them, you can probably tell that they may not think they have a shot.
Probably. But but you know how BMX. It's tough. When you get in the gate, and if you're not 100% committed, you're not 100%. I mean, not, I wouldn't say 100%, but you're not confident that you can go out and win, then you're probably not going to win.
No, exactly. And I like that you say you're not 100. You've said that a couple times, that you're not all in or 100% committed, because in a sprint sport, I mean, you get cut off pretty quickly, especially in our sport. But I think that in general, I mean, even your average entrepreneur or, you know, someone in another sport, I think that's where people kind of start to mess with their confidence or mess with their results, because and you even said as you get older, you know, maybe you start thinking about more things. But I think to be all in and to be 100% committed all the time in your thing can get more difficult. No?
It definitely does get more difficult, but even my coach, I mean, I wouldn't say every day, but he reminds me once in a while. I mean, those are his words. It's like, okay, look, we're not trying to win every single race. I mean, those are his words. Those days are over. Those days are behind. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to win every single race, but I want you to, whatever, 4 or 5, I mean, obviously World Championships, couple World Cups, couple of big ABA races. He wants me to be there and give 100%. I mean, just mentally, physically, just give it all I got. Yep. But he said, I mean, just forget about those days that you can go race every weekend and just get top 3 every weekend. It's just, you know, I mean, those days are probably behind you. I mean,
but you could say that about any golfer who's been in the sport more than 10 years, any basketball player who's been in the league more than, seems like 7 years probably. But the people who show up big have that kind of, they have an expectation not of the result, but they have an expectation of their own performance, which is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Right? You're saying I can win, but my goal is actually, I have 2 of them. One is to win possibly, but the bigger goal is for me to show up and be all in.
Exactly. And to me, it's all, I mean, for me, another thing is to win. I mean, obviously I do get it. Whenever I win the race, it doesn't matter how I do it. I mean, it's still, I mean, it's great. I mean, you happy. I mean, all that stuff. But when I go to big races, I want to win. A lot of times when I'm really feeling it, I want to win my way. I mean, that's why I had history of sometimes picking lane 8, picking lane 6, sticking to lane 6 or outside lanes. It's just, and that's what kind of, it's just hard to explain. And that's just, I guess that's just confidence. When those are some of the races when I'm really feeling it and I feel like nothing can go wrong. I mean, I can pick lane 8 and I know I can get it done.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, generally the inside lanes are better, and a lot of times the guy who's winning or doing well in the qualifying rounds get to pick their lanes, and a lot of times they choose lane 1, maybe 2 or 3. And so lane 8 historically is like the worst lane. And he's saying I'll pick that because I want it and I know I can win from it, and I'm more comfortable there when I'm feeling it. So just to explain to people who may not know BMX racing.
But those things have changed now. I mean, whenever I have a chance, I'm picking lane 1 now.
Well,
so it's a little different.
No one said you're stupid.
But thank you. But again, it's different when you pick lane 1. It's a little different mindset as well. So I mean, I think the last few years when I always picked outside lanes, and then it kind of worked out. And then whenever I got a chance to pick lane 1, either had a late gate or I got a little too relaxed, or either something went wrong. Actually, I did worse than when I picked outside lanes. Mm-hmm. So I can actually just mentally just doing the gates, whatever, the training, just paid more attention to that. I mean, just kind of be more in the zone, more focused whenever I'm in the inside lane. Just kind of make sure I I do just as well when I'm, kind of like approach it with the same mindset than when I'm in outside lane.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying because what you're saying, and it goes back to being 100%. You're saying like historically, if you had chosen an inside lane, right, which your odds are better, you backed off mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in and out, when you pick an inside lane, you backed off mentally. But when you take an outside lane, which is harder, in theory, you were more all in mentally because it was harder to come out of. It was harder to come out of that lane and come from the outside. So your intensity was
exactly
was dialed up.
Because you need that a little bit of extra. I mean, when you're on the outside lane, on the inside, a lot of times it makes you a little bit too comfortable because you don't feel like maybe you don't need to be in front of everyone. You just kind of need to be right next to each other, next to other guys. I mean, because you have the inside lane going into the first turn. So that's kind of what I wanted. I mean, just to change it a little bit. Just when I'm in lane 1, I wanted to approach it the same way when I'm in lane 8.
Right.
When I'm in lane 1, I wanted to make sure I have a good gate and I'm in front instead of just being right there with other guys.
Got it. So even at and this is a good conversation because even at the highest level, we still play these little tricks with ourselves, don't we? When we're competing.
I know. Sometimes too much. I mean, sometimes it gets too much. Yeah, but we do it.
But everyone does that. I think. I mean, Maris, I've talked to a lot of people in a lot of different sports and professions, and everyone's having these funny, silly conversations with themselves. You know, whether it's getting off the plane, before they get on stage, before they line up, before they get to the diving board, whatever it is. There's always these, these little adjustments people are trying to make, but you said it. It's simple. And it's allowing yourself to do your best and being all in.
Exactly. And I what I always say is, I mean, it doesn't. I mean, sometimes when you look at some athletes, I mean, they're winning all the time. I mean, they're just doing so great, and you think, I mean, their life is just perfect. They're so happy, but we don't realize, I mean, we all, doesn't matter how good you do or something, we all have our little problems that we kind of have to overcome to get there. I mean, to kind of struggle throughout the week or whenever leading up to a race, we all have, I mean, doesn't matter how fast you are. I mean, there's all kinds of little things you kind of have to overcome or deal with throughout the week or throughout the months or whatever. So, I mean, the life is really, I mean, it's great, but it's never as good as it looks, probably.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, no matter whether you're you're world champion on top of the world, or you're just some guy who's trying to get by. The bottom line is, you still have people in your life. You still have bills, other responsibilities. Your dog could get hit by a car. I mean, all these things
exactly.
that go. I remember one time. And it's funny you brought up Reno, but I remember I was in Reno and I was going really well. And this is back when we raced 3 classes. Mm-hmm. And I was on my way to for the semi, and I'd already made cruiser and open, the other 2 classes. And my brother and my roommate were there, and they drove my car up. I flew, but they drove my car up. And then before I'm getting on the gate, those 2 idiots are, they're like, Jason. And I look up in the stands. I'm like, oh, cool. These guys are coming to say good luck. And those idiots are like, you have a flat tire on your car. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not what I want to hear before I'm going up for the semifinal. But I just told those idiots, I was like, well, I guess you're gonna have to figure out how to get home because I have a plane ticket. Can I go?
How did you do after?
I made that main. I don't know how I did, but I did make that main. I made all 3 mains that day. I don't know how I did, but
that's the last thing you want to think about when you get in the game.
Right, but when you brought up problems or just, that's something stupid. But a lot of times it's stupid stuff that takes you out. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, I can think of so many people that, especially athletes, where they might have been injured, but they were injured not playing. They were injured because in practice, or they were injured because equipment malfunction, or they're injured because, they slipped because someone, dropped something in the elevator lobby, or, just something stupid. And then Not to mention actually real life issues that get in the way, finding out, mom or dad is sick, or finding out that,
Exactly.
you're getting that call in the middle of the night. So I'm glad you brought that up. So I always ask a few questions to everybody. What's your biggest win? What's your biggest loss? So what in your opinion is your biggest win?
As far as like the races,
period,
the races
in
yeah.
life, man. Yeah, it could be a race.
Well,
it could be something else.
I mean, I'll start with. I mean, obviously, lucky enough that my parents, decided to drop me off at the BMX track one day. I mean, that's how it all started.
Nice.
But secondly, that I met my coach, Evo, at that time. He's just the guy I look up to, but eventually later on, he just kind of took me under his wing and started training. So I think he's like I always say, he's a big reason why I'm even here and why we're sitting and talking here today. And, but as far as the races go, actual race, let me see. Let me think. You know what? I'll go with London.
Okay, London. So the second gold medal. Why that one? Because I think most people would say your first World Championships or your first gold medal, but why the second one?
Because the first, none of the world titles come easy. Period.
No, they don't.
Exactly, none of them. But the first one is kind of, you're still chasing it, so you don't think about. There's no really pressure. You have to deal with all the expectations. You don't have to deal with expectations maybe from media people, expectations. Just from yourself.
You're showing up fresh.
So, exactly. You're just chasing it. You're just chasing that unknown. And when you get there, and to stay there, that's the hardest part. That's when all the nerves, all the, like I said, expectations kick in, and that's when things get a little harder. So definitely that's the reason why London is probably the most, the special race, because those are 4 long years. I had some injuries, the ABA grants, the injury I got.
Yeah.
At the late 2010, and then even leading up to Olympics that year, it was a mentally tough year. Every other weekend I basically raced with temperature. It's just, I don't know, it was stress or it was just overtraining or something. So even the whole year leading up to Olympics, it was tough. Obviously media people, more attention, all that stuff.
And didn't you almost not qualify at the Olympics?
Well, it
came down to like the last semi or something. You weren't.
I think I was in top 4, but I was kind of on the bubble.
You weren't killing it. It was.
I wasn't consistent at all. If I go look at the race, but that's how I felt when I got there. I just felt like it's just. Even training leading up to Olympics. When I remember it was 2 days before we had to leave to London. And I just mentally, I was like, it's just too soon. I'm not ready. The race is basically 5 days from now, and it's just too soon. That's just how I felt. Physically it was fine. I felt good, and I was going to fast in practices and all that stuff. But I just felt it's just too soon. How is it going to be if I don't? How is it going to be if I don't win? No, exactly. That's just how with athletes it is. A lot of times we just overthink everything, and that's what kind of slows us down, and that's what it was. It's just too soon. I just kept telling myself, I'm just not ready.
So you're barely qualifying throughout the day. You're kind of like right on the edge of not qualifying. You get through, and then what happened between, because you obviously won the final.
Well, it takes. I guess it takes one good lap sometimes. The semifinal, I think the first lap hit the gate. I think I still got top 4 because some guys crashed and I passed some guys on the track, but I was kind of in the bubble, like 4th, 3rd, 5th, all that stuff. And the third lap actually had a good pop out of the gate. I think I was leading going into the first turn. I ended up getting second, but that's when I kind of felt like, okay,
You saw
can do it.
daylight. Yeah.
I saw daylight, and then that was the last semifinal, the third semifinal. I qualified, and that's, I mean, it's just one of those days, I guess. And after the semifinal, I to me, I felt like it can't get any worse. I can't write any worse that I've been writing all day, and I made it to the final.
Yeah, yeah.
And at that point, I mean, it's not that it's so hard to explain. It
but I think I hear you, because you're saying, you got through. Then the last semifinal, you saw some daylight, so you said, okay, the speed is there, and then, yeah, I mean, if I can make the final feeling like this, I may have a shot anyway.
You know what kind of clicked? I mean, because I wasn't writing consistently, and to be honest, I think I wrote, horrible those 2 days, but I completely forgot about expectations and all that stuff. So when I crossed that finish line in the semifinal, it was just, I feel like I'm chasing something. I'm chasing. There's no expectations, and that's when I kind of started smiling. I feel like there's nothing I can lose. I mean, I know I can go out and do it, and I felt like I'm chasing it. I'm chasing the title, and then I started smiling. That's when I was like, okay, I got it. And those are my words what I said to my coach's assistant.
Nice.
Assistant coach, and those are his words. He asked me before the main event. He's like, "Why are you smiling?" It's like, I got this. Those are my words. I told him, and then lane 3, and it just
and you got it. History. And you got
and
it.
I got it.
Man,
it was a tough lap. Sam was right there. I mean,
yeah. Between that second and third jump, those pedals were so strong and impactful. It was crazy. It was crazy when you landed off the first jump. Watching you guys pedal. But yeah, I think having that feeling, what I'm hearing in that conversation is when you said I got it, or my expectations went away. I hear like that you changed the power different, like you got your power back, like internally. Like it wasn't about what other people thought, and it wasn't about this other stuff. It was really about what you wanted versus what was expected.
And I think that's what it was, because like you said, during the race, there was too much focus on maybe what other guys are doing or how they're doing or how they're riding, instead of being in that zone and just focusing on myself. And that's why I kind of got lost, I think, throughout the race a little bit. And then, luckily I kind of was able to regroup.
Nice.
At the right time, and then pull it off. Yeah.
So that, which makes sense why that would be a more meaningful win, because not only did you win it again and kind of like really seal the deal, as being a deserving person, but you were struggling that week anyway. So just coming through and winning the only lap that mattered after riding inconsistently, that's a sweet victory for sure. So what do you think is your worst loss?
Well, I'll go with, as far as the race, 2009 Worlds, when I was in lane 1 in the main event at best lap times all day long. And then it's just, all props. Donny had a killer gate, and then really good first straightaway, and he just got me. We were right there, but he basically I just cut me off, and then the race was over, and then he won the Worlds. But that's, that's how race go. You win some, you lose some. So, but if I look back, I felt that one was the one
you let go, you let get away,
kind of let get away a little bit, yeah. And then, but as far as but to be honest, the toughest year I had was probably 2013. The whole year, just racing wise. It's after Olympics. You go home, you celebrate. Life is great. You're basically on top of the world. Everything is just so great. And then 2 months later, boom, Phoenix. First
2
national.
months later, it's like, okay, we're back on the circuit.
It's like, exactly. It's like first race of the year, boom, same stuff. I mean, same old. Phoenix, welcome to Phoenix, first national, USA BMX National of the year. And then it kind of like, it just kind of hit me. I was like, it's not that I didn't put any work in. I still, I mean, physically, I was prepared, but just mentally, I was just way behind. I just wasn't, mentally, I wasn't there. I mean, and you can't, when you're not 100% committed, the competition is too tough. I mean, these days with all the top guys, and you can't just go out there and then expect to win the race if you're not in it. And then that's what it wasn't. And I struggled the whole year. I felt like I'm like 2 months behind.
Playing catch up.
The whole season. I go to races, I feel like, okay, I'm catching up, but I felt like, okay, I'm still a month behind. I just physically, mentally, not physically, but mentally, I couldn't just quite get there all year long. Even though I actually won the European Championships that year.
Yeah. People, you probably have
it might sound funny, yeah, but even traveling and going to European Championships, there was a lot of arguing. I mean, I would say arguing over little things with my coach. I mean, he didn't quite like my approach. I mean, and just where I was mentally at that time, and so we were not in a happy place that year. I would say that.
Okay. Well, I mean, everyone has those seasons, and if that's, I mean, hey, if your worst season, you can still pull out a Euro championship. But I understand there's a feeling associated with it, right? It wasn't enjoyable. It was difficult for you.
It wasn't, yeah. A lot of traveling, didn't want to leave the house, and that was actually the year towards then when me and my coach kind of almost parted ways. I mean, we were close. Yeah,
I didn't know. I didn't know it came down to that.
I think it was Worlds were in New Zealand that year, wasn't? I think so.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That was probably the worst. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna go on the record and say that was the worst Worlds track ever.
All right, we could say it here. Because it was bad. It was bad.
It's whoever let that happen, it should go to jail. It just should be illegal. I mean, it's just, how can you can't make us big guys. I mean, go down the big ramp when the first jump is a little tiny roller.
You guys didn't fit on the track. And it's funny because in basketball and football, the field's the same everywhere you go, right?
Exactly.
I know. So, all right, last thing. This is a big question. What do you wish? One thing you wish everybody knew, not necessarily about you, but just kind of, everyone knew. Like, what would one good thing for people to know, just in life and performance and wanting to achieve some? What would be your kind of?
Well, I'm gonna say two things. The grass is not always greener on the other side.
All right. Very wise. Very wise.
What was the other thing I was going to say? I forgot. But let me see if I can remember it. But I always say three. I mean, at least what kind of helped me to get where I am today, I always say three things. I mean, belief. You got to believe in yourself. I mean, in your abilities. Mm-hmm. Work hard. Work ethic. Mm-hmm. And surround yourself with good people. And then I think those three things can take you to places. Yeah, I really do believe that. And I'll add one more: simplify. Things are a lot more simple than we think they are.
I think the last one is probably the most truest to you. Simplify.
It really. I mean, it's to me. I mean, it's easy to sit here and say it. I do struggle with that sometimes, like we all do. Mm-hmm. But you always just gotta remind yourself. I mean, it's just how it is with racing, training, just in life in general. I mean, it just that things are a lot more simple than we think they are. I mean, and that's really the key. I mean, whoever can figure that out will make it.
So, speaking of making it, what's next for you? How long are you gonna play this game, man?
I'm just kind of having fun now.
Good.
So
it could be a long while then.
Well, I feel physically, I feel good. Mentally, better than I have in, I would say, the last 3 years. And I don't know, just kind of having fun. I mean, even though the BMX industry in general is kind of struggling a little bit, I mean, there's no secret I don't have a bike sponsor, but which I'm not stressing about. I'm happy, man. There's no pressure. I just go out and do whatever I want. I mean, I'm really just, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just kind of in a good place right now, to be honest. I mean,
that's great. Yeah. That's great. And not many people can say that. And so, and that's also something else I've noticed, that people who've had long careers in anything, but particularly in sport, is they get to a certain sense of they're just in so much control of what they can control that all the other stuff is just noise. It doesn't matter. And so you end up doing what you probably, it sounds like to me, you're doing what you did for the reasons you did them when you first started. And so everything is just extra now.
Basically, that's what it is, yeah. It's like going back to basics, keeping things simple. That's just what we talked about.
Boom. That might be the title of this show, man. 100% all in, keep it simple.
Exactly.
Well, that's cool, man. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. Were you like house shopping, or aren't you? You just got married, actually.
I got married, and birthday's coming up, so the party's coming up. If you want to come out, you're more than welcome.
Oh, cool. Yes, I do. Thank you. Yeah, so birthday.
I'll send you a text. Yeah,
cool.
I'll send you an invite.
Thanks. But yeah, man, thanks. How can the people find you? Where can they find you on social media?
Type it in wherever you go, at Maris Strombergs.
At Maris Strombergs. Okay. Yeah. There we go. He might look like Drago, but and they call him the machine, but he's actually a human in there, more human than most, I think, which is why he's so successful. Maris, thanks for being on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to mine for gold on the Gold Medal Mindset podcast. Let's keep the conversation going at drjasonrichardson.com. That's drjasonrichardson.com. Take care and have a great day.